Good day, everyone. This is International Master Robert Jamieson from Melbourne, Australia. Back from a bit of a break from doing videos because I thought I'd do a video today on the World Championship for Dummies. Because in case you hadn't noticed, there is a World Chess Championship going on at the moment between Nepo from Russia and Ding from China. Now, normally, the World Chess Championship would be pretty exciting because it'd be the best and the second best player in the world fighting it out to see who's going to be the world champion. But there's a teensy little problem this time because silly old Magnus has decided not to defend his title. So the world number 2 and number 3 are playing off against each other, and one of them will be the world champion in a couple of weeks' time. But everyone on the planet will know that Magnus is still the best chess player. It's a pretty ridiculous situation. It's nearly as bad as the 1990s when we had Bobby Fischer claiming to be the undefeated world champion. We had Karpov claiming to be the FIDE world champion. And we had Kasparov claiming to be the Grandmaster Association world champion. So we had 3 blokes claiming to be world champion. We didn't know what was going on. Anyway, can't do much about it. So we've just got to sit back and enjoy the chess. Now, they're playing 2 games a day, 2 games, and then have a day's break and then another 2 games. And they're playing in Kazakhstan. Now, most of you probably don't know where Kazakhstan is, so I looked it up. It's stuck in the middle of Asia, halfway between China and Russia. So it's probably a good spot to have a match. The city it's being played in is called Astana, which I've never heard of, but apparently it's the capital. I looked it up on Wiki, and it seems to be a pretty nice modern place. But playing in a neutral venue is definitely the way to go. I mean, if you were playing the World Championship, you wouldn't want to be playing in the other bloke's home country where the crowd's on his side. So we have a long history of neutral venues. Go back to Fischer-Spassky, Russia versus the United States. They, of course, played in Iceland. Don't get more neutral than Iceland, and it's in the middle of the 2 superpowers. So definitely the way to go. Anyway, I want to show you game 4 because the first 3 games haven't been overly exciting. We had 2 draws and Nepo won game 2. Ding didn't play very well, but fortunately, Ding fought back in game 4. So let's have a bit of a look at it. So here we go. Starts off with an English opening. Now, actually, I heard an interesting thing from Ian Rogers the other day when he was doing his Nobel Cup commentary, when they were asking him sort of what sort of openings was he expecting for the World Championship. Now, computers, I think, have really stuffed it up these days because everyone can look up the best line. So if your opponent knows what line you are going to play, you're pretty well stuffed because he's going to look it up and find a good move against it that can at least equalise. So, whereas in my day, I sort of stuck to the same openings and said, well, this is my opening and I know it better than you do. You can look it up all you like. But that wouldn't work these days. So you have to play something a little bit offbeat, perhaps, to get your opponent off guard. Reminds me of the Fischer-Spassky match where Bobby Fischer had been playing E4 most of his life, comes up to the Fischer-Spassky match. What does he do? He plays D4 most of the time. And poor old Boris, he had wasted all his preparation. Anyway, Ding tried this in game 2, where I think it was on move 4. He played H3 and got his opponent out of the books a bit, but that didn't work well for him. So let's see how we go today. All right, developing their knights before bishops, so my students will be happy with that. E3, trying to get 2 pawns side by side in the centre. Bishop B4, takes. Now, if this is one of my students here, I'd say that's not the best move. What you should be doing is waiting till he attacks your bishop, and then you take it, and you sort of get him to waste a little move. But presumably these guys have a reason for doing this. Could have taken with the queen, but he's opted for the double pawns because, of course, this pawn's gone more towards the middle, so it's in a better spot controlling centre squares. So it's not all bad. Castles. E4, D6, so black's doing a good job of putting his pawns on the opposite colour to his bishop. Bishop E2, knight H5. Interesting. Well, clearly black's going to have to come up with a plan, and your plan normally involves some sort of pawn play. So he can't get in d5. So the logical move to get in is f5. So he's got to move his knight, and it has a little bit of an outpost on f4 if it wants, so that's logical move. Now, white could play safe and play d3, or be more aggressive, and he goes for d4. So he's got the space advantage, the 3 pawns side by side. All right, Nepo jumps in. Good spot for the knight. So Ding chops off the knight. So they've both got a double pawn now. Let's see what happens. Castles. Queen protects the pawn. Rook e1, rook e8. Looks logical. All right, bishop d3. Well, the bishop wasn't doing much on e2, and clearly with the queen and the bishop lined up, some stage we might be going to get in e5, and then the bishop's attacking h7. So that looks pretty logical. Bishop g4. Not sure about that. Were it me, I'd be thinking maybe h6. At some stage I might play g5 and get a bit of a pawn roller going. Anyway, bishop g4 clearly threatens to take the knight and open up white's king. So the knight runs away, leaving the bishop looking a little bit stupid. All right. And he puts his other knight on the side of the board. I hope my students aren't watching this, because I tell them don't put your knights on the side of the board. Knights should be in the middle. But these guys, of course, have a reason. So he's putting the double pawn under a bit of pressure here. Now, this move is interesting. Ding plays a pretty cool move that I certainly wouldn't think of. I'd be thinking sort of chase the bishop away like this or something maybe. But Ding plays pawn up here. Looks like he's getting his pawn structure wrecked. But here's a clever idea. So he's trying to get rid of his double pawn. Black takes it, and instead of taking back, Ding says, okay, I'm swapping a pawn for some space. So he goes e5, hitting the queen, and the bishop's now threatening h7 as well. And the queen has to go across to protect h7. Now he can still take back, but he says, all right, space advantage. You can have a pawn up, so you're ahead on material, but I've got 2 nice pawns in the middle. All right, Nepo puts pressure on the pawn, and now we cement it, and Nepo cements his pawn structure. So what is going to be more advantageous, the extra space or the extra pawn? Let's see what happens. Go away bishop, bishop retreats. Bishop e4. Not sure about that. Whether he's worried about f3. I'd be a little tempted to put my queen here to protect the e-pawn, and you've got the thought of maybe the bishop coming over here. Might be all right. Anyway, bishop e4. Rook e7, so he's doubling up on the e-pawn. Queen protects the pawn. Pawn's under attack. There's bishop f3 again. I'm sort of tempted to play this. If he attacks the pawn again, we can play here. And you can't play rook takes pawn because the bishop takes rook. That will be one idea. But Ding goes bishop f3. Knight comes back. Well, clearly the knight's not doing anything there on the side of the board. So he's trying to get it back into play. What's white going to do? Well, I tell my students, when you're not quite sure what to do, find your worst placed piece and improve it. So clearly this rook isn't helping. Where does he want it? He wants his rooks doubled on the e file, I think. So rook e2 looks logical. Now Nepo makes a big decision here. He tries to undermine the pawn center with f6. If he wants, Ding can play e6 with that supported passed pawn, though it does give the black knight the d6 square. I guess Nepo's running out of ideas a bit. I mean, you might play g5 or something, or even drop the bishop back perhaps. Anyway, f6. Ding says, okay, investing all my hopes in this pawn, but it gives black's knight a lovely square there. doubled. All right. Now, this is what I tell my students. You should be aiming to build up a good position, probably a better position than your opponent. Have a look at white's position. All his pieces are pretty nicely placed. Pawn structure is pretty good. Nice pawns on d5, e6, nice space advantage. Black's a bit cramped. He's got his extra pawn, but not sure what he's going to do. So he decides knight f5. So he's having a look. Look, my knight wants to come in here. So he's trying to improve his pieces as well. Ding swaps off the bishops. Plays rook e4. Says, I want my pawn back, pretty please. He can't play g5 because the f6 pawn will be on, so queen has to go back. Now Ding attacks it twice. All right, what to do, what to do? Nepo here makes the move, which is probably the losing move. What should he do? Maybe he should go back. But he plays here. All right. What would you play as white? If you've seen Kasparov's games, the common theme in his games to unbalance the position is he loves sacrificing the exchange. And Ding here says, well, this is one of those positions because that knight, that is a great knight. I mean, I could take my pawn back, but that is a great knight on d4. Why don't I get rid of it? And then my knight goes to b3, and my knight's going to sit on d4 and absolutely dominate the whole game. What can poor old Nepo do? All right, decides to defend his pawn. Knight takes. Look at that knight. It's a monster. Black's struggling for a plan, and white can probably just improve his position. Queen there, because knight f5 was threatened. Now, how do you improve your position? Well, if you've got a space advantage, one thing you have to think about is your opponent's options to undermine that advantage, to get rid of your space advantage. And you're better off thinking of how can I stop him, as opposed to, what can I threaten myself? So clearly black might be thinking of pawn up here, get something going with the pawns on the king side, and more to the point, stopping the knight coming in here. But white goes g4 because he wants to control that f5 square so the knight can get into an even better square than d4. All right, chops, chops. Now, black's the exchange up, but who cares? Because there are no open files. Rooks are better than knights in general, but they like open positions. Knights like closed positions. So if there's no open files for the rook, it's not much of a rook. All right, h5, he's trying to do something. Knight jumps in, attacking the rook. Rook runs away to the only safe square. All right, how's white going to improve his position? He has to be a little bit careful because black might be going to play g4, and that would force a swap of pawns and open it up a bit. So white plays the clever move, queen e4. So now, like if you play g4, I play h4. You play h4, I play g4. And your pieces have got no squares. So good move, Ding. All right, now poor old Nepo, in exasperation, he plays what my students know as the Gavin attack. Because I have this student named Gavin, and when he doesn't know what to do, he just moves his king into the corner. So poor old Nepo does the same thing here. All right. Now, white could basically just improve his position and fiddle around. I mean, if he wanted, he could do a Nigel Short and run over here with his king and win the rook pawn or something, perhaps. But he decides to try and put him away pretty quickly. e7. So that pawn's defended 3 times. You can only attack it 3 times, so you're not going to get that pawn. Queen f7, and now, of course, the logical follow-up, d6. Have to take it. Fork. So he's getting the exchange back. Queen back, chops, chops. So a pity we lost that killer knight for only a rook, but look, we have a supported pass pawn on the 7th. So his queen and his rook can't go anywhere. because otherwise that pawn would go through and become a queen. All right. So now we have to look around and find some weak points to attack. So obviously f6 is a good place to start. So queen e6 from Ding. King protects. And now we attack it again. Rook protects. But now that the rook's gone off the 7th rank, a little bit safer, we can play rook here with the terrible threat of rook d8. Thanks for the game. So Nepo doesn't resign. He's forced to play f5. Would you like a free pawn? But it's not a free pawn, because if white takes it, of course, he loses the pawn on e7. But that would be a blunder, because rook would get the queen. So it's possible, but it would allow black perhaps to activate his rook. Anyway, white does a sneaky move, queen check. Now, if rook f6, rook d8 resigns. So he's got to move the king again. Now we take it, and it's check. Even better. King can't take the pawn because the rook e1 wins the queen. So rook blocks. Give him a friendly check over here. And now his king goes out and wanders around the mulga. We've got a few good moves here. We could play rook e1 check, perhaps followed by queen e4. Takes his king around a bit. But Ding decides queen here, attacking the g pawn. Black's got nothing much to do. He can't play queen takes pawn because of rook e1, so he plays rook here. And now, clever move, queen f8. We've got to get that pawn through, so we need to get that queen out of the way. He can't play queen takes queen, but he can play rook here. Can you see what's wrong with rook here? How would you win if you were white? You take it. And then rook here. Now, poor old black, he can't take the pawn because he loses his queen. His queen can't move anywhere and give check because I'm going to get a queen with check. So Nepo realised his position was hopeless and resigned. All right, not a bad game from Ding. Played a bit like Karpov, the old boa constrictor style. I really liked it. And more importantly, it's made the match interesting. Recent World Championship matches have been pretty boring. We have Caruana and Carlson, and they draw after draw after draw, and then they have some rapid playoff and someone eventually wins. But that's the trouble these days. In the old days, when Fischer and Spassky were playing, we're playing sort of like 24 games, something like that, or first to 6 wins even. So you get your money's worth. And if you lose a game here or there, it doesn't matter because there's plenty of other games where you can fight back. These days, if you're only playing 12 games, as has been in recent World Championship matches, you get a win, all you got to do is keep on drawing. You know, everyone's scared and they play safe and we have all these silly draws. So at least now it's 2-2. So someone has to win a game to be world champion. So hopefully they'll play exciting chess and we can see some interesting games over the next few weeks. They're on at 7 o'clock Australian time. If you're on the east coast of Australia and you want to have a sickie beat, chess.com has got them. So let's hope we see some good chess. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed my little video on Ding's nice win, and I'll see you next time.